welcome back. Welcome, welcome back,
Welcome
welcome
back,
back, welcome
welcome
back. All
back.
right, breaking the habit of being yourself. Woo! Today is chapter 7, The Gap. So, actually, before I dive into chapter 7, I had a question that was posed to me by a friend. What does a quantum creator mean to me? Right? And why is it so important to become a quantum creator? So, in essence, I want you, because I'm sure most of you, maybe some of you, possibly a small percentage of you, have seen something like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse or something like, what's the movie? The new Spider-Man, Coming Home. I forget the name of it. With all the Spider-Men, right? Or if you've seen something like Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, which is a fantastic example of how this book allows you to become the desired version of yourself, right? So, as a quantum creator, right, the idea behind it, to understand the possibilities of the quantum universe and to create within that spectrum. So, you have an infinite ability to achieve and accomplish anything that you want to achieve and accomplish. Your only limitation is those self doubts, those limiting beliefs that you push into yourself or that you let society push upon you that makes you dim your light, that makes you abide by the ways by which society may want you to operate, that leaves you plugged into a system of what's the word? A system of, I guess, placating. I don't know. I wouldn't say placating, but more so just not becoming as great as you could be, right? And that is the saddest thing that could happen. Because if you really tapped into your ultimate potential, which is to be, become, grow, and do any and everything that you could possibly think of, then the level of innovation we would experience as a society at whole would be vastly superior to where we are now. The abide by the rules, do whatever people say, and not go above and beyond, which is piss poor. Quantum creation, what it means to me. So, being a quantum creator, there are these moments, and I know you've probably heard of something called flow, where you fall into this effortlessly moment of time where you are just in that exact moment at peace, but tapping into this level of specification, this level of articulation that is not forced, it's not troublesome, it's just literally free flowing. It's those moments, I've had these moments where I could be in a job interview and they're asking me about the things I do at work or my expertise. And I just kind of just flow into this explanation of how it all comes together, explaining how you bring the stakeholders and the teams. And it's just this flow that connects on so many levels, so abstract yet so detailed that it just makes perfect sense. I've had moments where you're like helping a friend flesh out a business idea. And it's like to you is this thing that's like so obvious. And you're like, oh, you could do it like this. And that exact moment, I'm not just like projecting my idea. I'm teleported to actually in their business, in their physical location. And I'm just conveying what I see around me as I walk through it, the things that they could sell, the way that their system could be set up, the people, the customers, what their customers look like, the desire, the joy on their face, the little small nuanced details, the user experience that you really don't truly think about until you truly have to think about it. Those moments, you are not, you're no longer in your current state. but you are where you intend to be, and you're living in that moment, and you're just making a record of what you see. So for me, being a quantum creator, what I want to tap into is to teleport into those moments to gather intel, whatever it is, whether it's a business idea, whether it's helping family, helping friends, whether it's anything that is absolutely productive. Teleport there and see it, feel it, experience it, gather intel, know exactly what it means in that exact moment. So when I come back here to this current timeline, I am changed. I can no longer think the way I used to think because I know exactly what it feels like to be in this future timeline. And now my body just vibrates at a higher level, and I can only march towards that desired timeline because the previous timeline has been excommunicated. It no longer exists. That is my personal expectation for being a quantum creator. That's where I want to make the magic happen. So with that being said, let me check my had to check my overhead camera real quick, make sure I got the razzle dazzle. Um, I know it looks like I don't need any energy or that I'm good to go, but I'm not gonna hold you. Sometimes I want a little extra, a little a little extra alertness, a little keep the party going. And I need to power up a little bit. I'm gonna just get a couple of beverage going, a little not sponsored of course, but if the C4 folk want to holler at your boy, it is a tasty beverage. I do like Starburst, and I like the fact that it's 0 calorie, can't affect the abdominals. So, let me give my little power up real quick. Woo! And now let's think about this. We're going into chapter 7, The Gap. And I'm excited because if I because I haven't read this, so if I could anticipate what this chapter will be about, it's that chasm, that where you are to where you want to be, clearly defined, articulated, and elaborated on to the point where we as a person, as a people, as an individual, as a collective whole can look into the chasm and figure out a way over it, through it, past it, evaluate it, a gap analysis to empower our execution for this quantum creator magnificence. Hey, so you know what time it is. Bring out the trusty dusties. I love these headphones. I absolutely do. Whew. Tap into that noise cancellation and kick off the chapter. So here we are. Let the games begin. So, what I thought the gap was about, totally wrong. That's not the gap that he was talking about. And I love the fact that I was absolutely wrong. The more you know, the less you know. That is self awareness. So, the gap that he was talking about which the way that he articulated throughout this entire chapter was him starting with a personal. Matter of fact, he pulled that Tarantino. If you ever watched the Quentin Tarantino film, hopefully you have because they are sensational. Um, Sometimes he starts in the middle or towards the end, and then he pops back to the beginning to give you the background, and then you'll see where the story meets where it initially started, and you're like, huh, brilliant. Literally, he pulled that in this chapter, start off with a personal story about how he noticed the gap in his work, and then goes into explaining the gap in further detail, and then goes into like what's required to actually close the gap, and then brings it to the end with a story of how he, closed the gap. But what is the gap? Keep on saying the gap, and I haven't told you what the gap was. The gap, and I know a lot of people can relate to this, and he uses a hand diagram. The gap is who we project in the world, who we are. It's our representative. And the bottom hand is who we really are. That change, that distance, that's the gap. So you could be this whatever person that you present to the world, and then when you're by yourself, when no one's looking, those thoughts, pain, insecurities, all of that, that bottom hand, that's the real you. So what happens when you close the gap? Transparency. And that, just the thought of it, the idea of it, gives me goosebumps. Everyone has a perception that they push out to the world, but there are those few people, when you meet them, just the level of authenticity, you know that that's who they really are. The ones that might somewhat say, what you want to say, but you hold your tongue because you don't want the backlash, the canceling, or whatever. That authenticity. So I'm gonna just say the last paragraph of this book, because I gotta keep the consistency, states this. Last paragraph of this chapter. Let me not say the book. Whatever has drawn you to this book, when you make up your mind to change, you have to move to a new consciousness. You must become very clear about what you're doing, how you're thinking, how you're living, how you're feeling, and how you're being, to the point that it isn't you and you don't want to be it any longer. And that shift has to reach you on a gut level. So, just the next chapter, he's going to get into like the actual process, like the meditation aspect, because he talks about the meditation. He hints at it in here on how he's helped people in their personal stories about other individuals on how they changed at a fundamental level through meditation. And within that meditation, the focus on identifying and unlearning certain things about yourself. So you first have to become truly, absolutely honest with who you are. That bottom hand, the real you. You got to just move that top hand out the way. You got to say, this part of me right here is who I am. Become so blatantly honest, so transparent with yourself. Like, look, these are the things about me that I love. These are the things about me that I hate. These are the insecurities. These are the trouble areas, the trouble spots. And these things are this way because of this specific emotion that I experienced in the past that I allow myself to keep on reliving over and over, trying to self-identify as I am this person, when I need to take the time to really dig deep into that emotion, to remove the emotion from that memory. Because, boy, I tell you, he said something in here. Let me see if I can find it real quick. And I said, this man up here is preaching. He up here, he dropping knowledge. Just found, he said, a memory. He said, instead, let's unmemorize our self-limiting emotions. A memory without the emotional charge is called wisdom. Let that sit. A memory without the emotional charge is called wisdom. Now, I know some people may not be Christians and some people may not think a certain way, but you've heard, in all of your getting, get understanding, right? In all of your getting, Solomon, his whole purpose, his whole intent, his goal was about wisdom. becoming the wisest man, which made him the most profitable. So if I'm saying a memory without emotional charge is called wisdom. So when you can start to reflect, dive down into those troubled areas, those moments of discourse you have in the back of your mind with just yourself in that back room in that dark area that you don't want to share with nobody, and you start to whittle away at that emotional charge, start to remove it, start to disperse it to the point where now you can have that idea. You can remember that thing that occurred that was displeasureful, that you disliked, but you don't have the emotional response to it. Because I know everyone's had something where they think about something and they get hot again. They be like, just thinking about it just creates that same emotion. The book is genius. That thing that creates that same emotion, it transports you, it teleports you back into that past event so that you're reliving it over and over and over. It goes back to a different chapter where he's like, look, the goal is to make sure that your mind is not this idealization that's stuck in the past, but becomes a map to your future, a projection to where you want to go. Man, you got to do that. You got to take those memories. You got to unchisel that emotional charge. You need to craft it so you don't forget, never forget, but you're no longer emotionally occupied. It's not taking up space. You know what they say? Living rent free? Nah, bruh. Remove that. It is no longer taking up emotional space in your mind. It's no longer transporting you back to that exact moment where you know you got hot. Literally, and your body responds as if it's happening all over again. No, you just remember it, you acknowledge it, but you're indifferent to it. You're not emotionally charged. You say, and you move forward. You are no longer controlled by it. Now you are controlling. And the only thing that you can ever control in this world is how you respond. So when you start identifying these memories and uncoupling those emotional responses, now we're talking about becoming powerful beyond measure. And you know what happens with people that become powerful beyond measure? You become that quantum creator. I hope you guys enjoyed this chapter, chapter 7. Woo! It was fantastic. I felt like it flew by. And I absolutely enjoyed it. So with that being said, please like, subscribe. Any comments, any feedback? Yeah, we're getting started. I know this is the end of the year and the new year's coming. So for the upcoming year, 2023, we will be quantum creators. We are going to manifest magnificence. And we're going to look back a year out and be like, man, I remember. And now, what does it start from the bottom? Now we're here. Hey. I shouldn't even be drinking more of this because I've already finished reading, but thanks for stopping by my little digital Airbnb in this YouTube universe. And I'll catch you next time.